Hello, how are you? Today we are going to have a fascinating study. We're going to continue with our previous studies, but now we're going to be able to expand our understanding of the scriptures. Today our topic is what is status? Let me see the spell it. Yeah. Status. There we go. What is statute? The Hebrew word for statute is spelled like this. It pronounced hukim. The root of the word hukim is basically hawk, spelled like this. That's the root. Okay? The root of the word. Hukim is for plural statutes. And of course, this is singular. The meaning of each letter, especially this one means a tent wall. And what reminds us about the tent wall, it has to do with the sanctuary. Because in the days of Moses, the sanctuary, the tabernacle, was a tent. So that is a tent. It also means a division. Well, if you look at the tabernacle has division. It has the holy place, the most holy place, and then you have the outer court. And of course, the outside of the courts. Kaf, the letter kaf, it has to do with time. It has to do with observing. It has to do with a circle. In other words, it keeps going back again to the same place. It's like a clock. And you have, a clock. It continuously going in circles. It's an observing. But in this case of time, it has to do with observing of worship, and that's the relationship here. Worship. The yod over here has to do the hand of God. And what that means is basically worship. And the mem, the final mem, has to do with water. Those are the symbols of each letter. And water, it has to do with instruction, which you already know in your previous studies. So now you have a tent of war, a time of observance, worship, and its instruction. What comes to your mind? In the days of Moses, they have what they call the sanctuary. There we go. The sanctuary. Here you have the most holy place, and this is the holy place, and this is the outer court. And of course, this is the gate. Okay? The gate. There's only one gate. So you notice it's a tent of observance has to do with observance. So what of the observance? Has to do the observance, the stations of time for prayer. Has to do the 3 times of prayer, which is morning, afternoon, evening, and of course, there is a cycle of time of worship and receiving instructions right here. Out of this word, there's another word that derives from the root right here, and it's called haka. Let me see, I'll put it right here. Haka. And haka, and hak, hakim, the word hak, it comes from the English language. Basically, hack. I'm not talking about hacking computers, but I'm talking about hacking of engraving. Has to do with engraving. It has to do with legislature. To legislate. Let's look at the word legislate. It has to do with a prescription that's only being prescribed by God Himself. A prescribed by God Himself. Prescribed. Hak, hakim, hukim. It has to do with custom, obeying the custom of God. It all relates to the customs of God. The word for obeying is also follow. Follow, obey the customs of God. Another word, it means to shape a receptacle. And you kind of wonder, what? Shape a receptacle. It also means to engraving, the engraving that came from the throne. That's another definition for the word haka or hukim, hak. Engraving from the throne of God. So we learn that the word, this word, they all come from God. And it has to do with His custom. It has to do that He's the only legislator. Legislator. He is the legislator. He is the lawmaker. He's the one who engraved and shaped it into a receptacle. A receptacle, it has to do with some kind of a container. There it is, a little receptacle. According to the sages, they say that the receptacle was underneath the throne of God. And this is the throne of God. And this receptacle is right here. And because here is describing that it has to do with the sanctuary, so the only throne of God that you will find is the most holy place. Today, this has become a box. And this box is what everybody calls the Ark of the Covenant. So you have the Ark of the Covenant. So you notice that the word statute is connected to the most holy place. It's giving you the description as where is the origin, right here. And it's underneath the throne of God, according to the sages. And the only place that you find a throne and a receptacle underneath the throne of God is the most holy place. What is the receptacle that you find in the most holy place? It's what? It's called the pot of manna. And what most people have lost in translation is that when they look at the pot of manna, they see just the pot of manna, nothing more and nothing less. But there is more than just a pot of manna. The word manna has to do with bread. And bread has to do with what we learned in the past, instruction. So this is the part of what? Of instruction. And it's known as the statute. Another definition of the word hakah, hak, and hukim, it has to do with the Constitution. And the Constitution was engraven, prescribed by God Himself. It was shaped as a receptacle, engraven from the throne of God. He is the legislature. Today, we look at it as the Ten Commandments, the Constitution. But it's all where it's located, the pot. With this in mind, now that we have a background, let's look at what the scriptures have to say about the word statute. So let us start with the word, the verse in Genesis 26:5. It states, "Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments and my statutes and my laws." So now we know that to Abraham was given the statutes during the time of Abraham. And we learn that Abraham, this is Abraham era. We learn that it was given to him orally. That's why we have the oral law. And of course, they were giving him instruction. In Exodus 12:14, we also learn, "And these days shall be unto you for a memorial, and yet you shall keep it a fast to the Lord throughout your generation. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever." We learn here that it has to do with observing. And it has to do with the feast. Well, what do we learn here? Time and observance. It's a circle. In other words, it's a cycle. It's a yearly cycle. Here is a time cycle. Here, days and months are involved here. The observance of the feast. Leviticus 16:29. And this shall be a statute forever unto you, that in the 7th month and the 10th day of the month you shall afflict your soul and do not work at all, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger that sojourn among you. We learn that this observance apply to all people. Regardless of where you come from, it says all people, the natural and the stranger. Meaning the citizens or the visitors. Visitors from other countries, from other nations. And it's talking about the feast. Not just one feast, all the feasts. Number 18:11. And this is thine heave offering of the gift with all the wave offerings of the children of Israel. I have given them unto thee, and unto thy sons and to thy daughters with thee, by statute forever. Everyone that is clean in thy house shall eat of it. We learn here that Numbers 18:11 refers to the offering. And the word heave, the heave, means contribution. What is the contribution? What are the contributions that the people gave to do a heave offering? It's on 18:12. Let's see what it says. All the best of the oil, and all the best of the wine, and of the wheat, the first fruit of them, which they shall offer unto the Lord, them have I given thee. We learn here that the people of Israel brought oil, wine, which is grape juice, and wheat. And what do they need it for? To make bread. And they make offering by contribution. Everybody brought the first fruit of the oil, the wine, and the wheat. And that is connected to the status. It's related to the service of the sanctuary. Exodus 27:21. In the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testament, Aaron and his sons shall order it. From evening to morning before the Lord, it shall be established forever until the generation on the behalf of the children of Israel. If you read the prior verse to verse 21, which is 20th, it has to do with the menorah. Menorah has to be the light has to be on all the time, 24/7. What do they use it for? What do we use lamps today? To see in the time at night, in order to study the Torah, to study the Word. 28:43. And they shall be upon Aaron and upon his son when they come in unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, they that bear not iniquity and died, it shall be a statute forever unto him and his seed after him. So this refers to ministering. It's a ministry, let's call it the name. Let's call it ministry of the ministers. The priesthood. If they're going to be working in the sanctuary, they need to be in good standing. No iniquity shall be upon them. Exodus 29:9. And thou shalt gird them with girdles, Aaron and his son, and put bonnets on them, and the priest's office shall be theirs for a perpetual statute. And thou shalt consecrate Aaron and his son. Here we learn that the garments of ministry, the garments of the priest, Leviticus 3:17. It shall be a perpetual statute for your generation through all of your dwelling, that you eat neither fat nor blood. No fat, no blood. What do we learn here? It's the diet. It has to do with the diet, making sure that there is no fat and no blood. And it's all related to the statute. Leviticus 10:9. Do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy son with thee when you go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generation. Do not drink wine, which is alcohol in this case, or fermented wine, and the other one is a strong drink. Again, diet is involved. What you eat and what you drink. Leviticus 7:36. Which the Lord commanded to be given them of the children of Israel in the day that he anointed them by a statute forever. Now we're talking about the anointing. Let's call it the priesthood anointing. Leviticus 20:23. And you shall not walk in the manners of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. What do we learn? In this text, the word manners is translated from the word statute. So manners and statutes. This has to do with the customs of God, the manners of God. Don't imitate the customs of the nation. Don't do what they do. We still need to maintain the customs of God. Leviticus 26:3. If you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them. Here we learn is to walk. Walk, keep, and do. Status. Summarize it. Deuteronomy 4:40. Thou shalt keep therefore his statutes and his commandments, which I command you this day, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee, and that thou mayest prolong thy days upon the earth, which the Lord thy God give thee forever. If you keep, it will prolong your life. Prolong your life. Leviticus 26:15. And if you shall despise my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgment, so that you will not do all my commandments, but that you break my covenant. If we despise the statutes, what do we ended up doing? Break the covenant. So what happened if I take this word right here? What if I take this word and I take away one letter of this word? And let's say I take this one right here. It means ka. And what that means, it means that you become powerless in your argument. It also means argument. If you continue to separate yourself from God by making arguments and excuses, they are powerless. You have no power. But when you're walking in the path of truth, you come to realize that words are power. And by speaking the truth and following the truth, you have power. But when you abhor and despise the status, the constitution, the custom, the prescribed instruction that God gave, you become powerless. All the arguments and excuses are powerless. So, according to Proverbs 19:16, we have read this before. He that keep the commandment, keep his own soul, but he that despise his ways shall die. So with all of these powerless arguments and excuses, at the end result is death. But if you preserve and you keep and you protect the statutes, the instructions of God, you will have long life and you will live. Numbers 15:31, right here. Because he that despised the word of the Lord and had broken his commandment, that soul shall utterly be cut off, meaning disconnected. He will be disconnected. From where? From the source of life. Judges 2:17. And yet they were not hearkening to the judges, but they went a warring after other deities and bowed themselves unto them. They turned quickly out of the way with their fathers walking, obeying the commandments of the Lord, but they did not do so. What do we learn? And this is an invitation to you. Exodus 15:26. If you will diligently hearken unto the voice of the Lord, thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandment, and keep all his statutes, I will assess none of this disease upon thee, which I have brought or assessed upon the Egyptian, for I am the Lord that healed thee. 1 Kings 11:38, and it shall be if you will hearken unto all that I commanded you, and will walk in my ways and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee, and build thee sure house, as built for David, and I will give Israel unto thee. Summarizing it. The summarize is this. Hak, Hukim, Haka. It's a tent, it's a division, it's a time and observance of, it's a circle, it's a cycle, it's a worship time. It's the hand of God, it's worship, it's instruction that you receive. Every morning, afternoon, and evening. It's established on this sanctuary by God. It's engraven. He is the legislator, legislate that prescribe the customs of God for us to follow and to obey. And he made a receptacle that comes from the throne of God, from the Ark of the Covenant, the pot of manna, with instruction. It's the bread. We're given to Abraham the statute, the observance of the feast, given to all people, natural and strangers. The offering, the contribution, the oil, the wine, and the wheat, the light, in order for us to be able to receive instruction. It's for the minister, the leadership, the priesthood, to have holy garment and not to be contaminated by fat or blood, not to drink wine or to strong drink, and to establish the anointing priesthood, the manners and the statutes of God, to walk, to keep, to do is the statutes. By keeping it, you will prolong your life. Despising the statutes, you will break the covenant. You will become powerless by the arguments and excuses, and the end result, you become disconnected from the source of life.